And we are live. Good morning, comic book fans. Welcome back to Comics in 5 Minutes. I'm Revel host Shorty, and we're going to start with an apology because I didn't do a review yesterday. I basically just kept having other stuff coming up, and I never found the time to sit and properly plan it out. Very quickly, Damage Control by Marvel Comics. It's a comedy comic book that isn't very funny, but the artwork is adorable. Right, anyway, on to today's review. Minor Threats. This is from that guy, Pat Oswalt, who you may have heard of as a comedian that I absolutely genuinely love. I think he's hilarious, and he's a massive nerd, and I think that really helps his comedy. And it also means we get to talk a little bit about, is it like a good thing for people who are famous for non-comic book things to write comic books? I know people who will probably never pick this comic book up because it's written by Patton Oswalt. They'll probably say it's just bad because they're assuming he's writing it to have it make into a TV series or a Netflix show. The same people who would never have picked up Berserker, even though it's a perfectly serviceable comic book written by Matt Kint, and occasionally Keanu Reeves decides to be really cool if his character beats somebody to death with an arm that is ripped off to somebody. It's silly and over the top, and it's nice, but I get the criticism that if you're only writing for the idea of it going to be a Netflix thing or a movie or a Prime thing or anything like that, you're going to kind of lose the point of why do it as a comic book. Comic books aren't just a marketing tool for something else. They deserve to be respected for their own art and their own medium. And this one really does. The other writer, Jordan Bloom, I don't know comic book writer, I think he actually writes for TV, but writing scripts for TV is a lot closer to writing scripts for comic books than doing prose or non-fiction. So he's kind of got like a good base, and you can see this come through really effectively. Page layouts are interesting. There's an awful lot of like really big bold art, never like full double page splashes, but quite a lot of like a single page with one huge bit of artwork as the focus. Sometimes maybe like a panel on top and the bottom just to like move the story along a little bit, which works perfectly well. But quite a lot of times it's just this huge, cool bit of artwork. The timings of stuff is really good. The language used is brilliant. It feels very organic. It feels like it's people having real lives and occasionally being funny without trying to be a cartoonish comedy book, and that's good. I like that. It's my favorite kind of jokes to read in comic books. And the story is brilliant as well. It's this idea of superheroes not being accountable, and not in a boys way, or it does have a lot in common with the boys, but there's no like corporation keeping an eye on them. They're more self-policing, and it's the fact that they don't self-police which is the problem. They effectively have great power and don't really worry about responsibility. They care more about their own image and being able to carry on playing the game, as it's referred to, of just going out and being costume superheroes. And when something goes wrong, when somebody breaks the rules of the game, this facade could potentially come crumbling down. It uses this to kind of talk a little bit about class structures, which is nice. It doesn't really hit you over the head with it too much. There's quite a nice bit where they kind of riff on the Eternals thing, where there's this body of dead Celestial just lying around on planet Earth that nobody's done anything about. In this comic book, the superheroes killed a giant kaiju off the coast and didn't do anything to clean it up, so a bunch of lower class working class people and criminals basically just built housing on it because it actually was kind of just sitting there. They might as well use it, and making the best of a bad job. And that kind of like attention to world building and how characters interact with the world around them and with each other, it's really nicely done. The story is good. It uses flashbacks effectively. It's not trying to do huge over-top cinematic kind of flashbacks to a different time and completely reinventing how the comic book's portrayed. It still reads like a comic book. It's using flashbacks just to add to the stories that's going on. They're never like distractions. They're never just done for the sake of it, to show something off. They all work. It all comes together really nicely. And the artwork as well, it's a complete package. I was flicking through the pages of it and I was trying to think what it reminded me of, and it's Doom Patrol. We have these brilliant, over-the-top, fantastical character and creature designs, and they're everywhere. They're all over the place. But it looks like they could exist in the real world, and that's what Doom Patrol always did for me. You have these over-the-top, fantastical characters, but they would dress and act as if they could exist in a real world. It just so happens that the world they exist in isn't ours, it's the DC world. It feels like that. Everything is kind of grounded. There's a shot very early on of the bar that a lot of this is placed in, kind of low-rent villains, kind of like a Noonan's bar kind of place. But above the bar, there's a whole bunch of like domino masks and face coverings that look like, if I was going to guess, I'd say they were put there as reminders of people who are doing jail time or haven't survived, or people who've quit. And I kind of like that is just a random thing that happens. It's never really explained. There's no big deal made out of it. It's just a thing that's there. It's part of the world. And the artwork throughout invites you to keep finding out that kind of stuff. There's enough detail in there that it's absolutely worth paying attention to. There's great city shots where you realize just how bad stuff is, and because it is a sci-fi fantasy superhero world, when stuff goes bad, it involves like, you know, creatures growing out of walls and stuff floating away, and it's all in there. It is a complete work, and it's a complete work of comic book writing. Can't stress this enough. For people who might avoid it because it's Patton Oswalt and might be thinking this is just done to turn it into something else and try and take advantage of pop culture's love of all things comic book at the moment, put that idea on a shelf and forget about it. Enjoy this for what it is, because I'm sure that's what the writers were intending to do. I think if this did get picked up and made into something, they'd be like, oh, okay, cool. We're going to carry on doing comic books because it's just fun. And it really is. And you get to do so much more with it without worrying about a budget. It's just, if you can think it, you can draw it, you can write it, it's there and it works. And honestly, I enjoyed this. I really, really did. And I can't wait for the next issue. That's it for me today. There's not much left I can actually review, but you never know, you might get one tomorrow. Until then, look after each other, everyone. Stay safe. Bye.